Okay, welcome everybody to our very first session in the business track. We're going to be covering sustainability assessments in media. Now, today, many film and television productions should ensure they operate in a green fashion by certifying their productions. In media tech, the assessment choices are limited. So why are we bothering? So we're going to learn why sustainability production certificates and business assessments are an important component to your sustainability plan. Now, we've got a great panel for you and a great moderator, so I'm going to hand over to Hemini Mehta from the EBU to carry out the session.
Thank you for the intro, Lisa. So welcome everyone to this panel discussion. We don't have long. I'd just like to introduce the panel to you. So we have April Sotomayor from Albert. She is the head of industry sustainability. We also have Abdul Hakim from DPP, who is a committed sustainability program manager. And we have Paloma Urrutia from Mrs. Green Film, and she's the founder and a consultant there. So as I said, we've got a short time and I'm going to try and keep an eye on the time for us all. So first question goes to Abdul. What is the DPP certification and why is it important?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Hemini, for the really great introduction. So for those of you who may not be familiar with the DPP, we're a media industry business network. And about 4 years ago, so in 2019, we launched the DPP's Committed to Sustainability program. And that was off the back of a conference that we held a year before called the Leaders Briefing Conference, whereby we had some senior executives from major media organizations talking about how sustainability was important to them and it was a business priority for them. However, there were challenges with their suppliers and the supply chain in general in terms of visibility around what organizations were doing around sustainability and how difficult it was to choose between two suppliers when it came to assessing their sustainability performance. And so we took that as a call to action to do something about it. And so a year after this conference, in November 2019, we launched the DPP Committed to Sustainability program. And actually, to really answer Hemini's question around the certification, it's actually not a certification program. What it is it's a commitment for suppliers to do and work towards reducing the environmental impact. And so what it entails is an online self-assessment questionnaire which suppliers complete. And you don't necessarily have to be a supplier. We've actually got media organizations that have taken part in the process. So it's really for any organization, but the ultimate beneficiaries are media organizations who are looking for responsible suppliers in that sense. And in going through the assessment, they have to provide and answer questions around how they manage their environmental impact, the kind of processes and frameworks that they have in place in order to be able to reduce the environmental impact. And the assessment is scored out of 5 being high and 1 being low. And that score we keep private, so it's entirely optional for the participating company to reveal the score, although we encourage it. But the idea is that in going through the program, you get a sense of where you are in terms of how you manage your environmental impact. And if you score low, then it gives you the incentive to do better and to score higher. And obviously, if you score higher, then the idea is that you're demonstrating to the wider community that you are doing something about it. So at the end of the process, we award the Committed to Sustainability program mark, which companies can use for their own promotional purposes, or in terms of responding to RFPs. It's something that many organizations now recognize, and it shows that you are part of a community of responsible suppliers that are really taking sustainability seriously. So that's really what the program is about. And the reason why it's actually important is because it's incentivizing positive behavior. And ideally what we want to do is get to a place whereby we've got companies of all sizes really thinking about sustainability and are ingraining sustainability in how they operate in all aspects of their business effectively.
Thanks, Abdul. And one thing that you'd mentioned before, which you didn't today, it's really good, was that it was a great way for organizations to start their sustainability journey, because it's quite overwhelming at the moment. So as you mentioned, it was a great first step towards it.
Exactly, yeah. So in the program, we've got companies that have established sustainability management frameworks, really large enterprises, but also at the same time, startups who have taken part. And one of the challenges that we hear from suppliers is that actually it can be quite daunting. There's so many different standards and schemes, and it's actually quite scientific as well in terms of the understanding of science that you need to be able to really understand what the impact of climate change is. It's quite substantial. So it aims to break it down and really makes that whole process of going on that journey a bit more straightforward, a bit more welcoming, and really uses the DPP process as a bit of a framework to help you get on that little first step of the ladder.
Great, thank you. And so, April, what is Albert, and why is it important to have a certification for green production?
Albert is, so we're BAFTA Albert, we're part of the BAFTA sort of family of organizations, and we're sort of the home of environmental sustainability within the screen industries. We provide a whole suite of tools around carbon footprinting, supporting documents, training, education. We've also got, in addition to our certification for productions, we've got a studio standard that studios can use to get on that sustainability journey as well. And then we also convene the industry around these key kind of sustainability topics, and that includes our supply chain. So your question is what is the Albert certification and the role of it? So what we look at is we've been going for more than 12 years now. And it's a great way to, highlight, celebrate achievement, reward people for their good work, but also to sort of, as Hakeem mentioned, it's a fantastic way for them to start from somewhere, start from a point of success. And what they do is how they engage with the certification is they create sort of a projected carbon footprint from the use of our carbon calculator. They fill in a questionnaire around kind of the key impact areas of the production, and then they create a carbon action plan. That has to happen at pre-production phase. And so that enables the production to actually implement sustainability solutions throughout the course of the production. And then at post-production is when they submit for certification. So to be able to demonstrate that they have acted sort of at the planning stages and then implemented the solutions required. So it's a fantastic way to get on that journey and celebrate and reward success, and also back up any green claims through a best-in-class evidence-checked system.
Right, thank you. And similarly, do you find, because you have different tiers in your certification, do you find that it incentivizes people to do better the next time round? Is there the idea of getting to a certain level, the gamification almost side of it, does that incentivize people?
Yeah, so it depends on the nature of the genre, if it's an ongoing production as well. But yes, it can certainly incentivize, especially if it's the same kind of crew that are working through the certification again. And we certainly see that from sort of certifications like Emmerdale, for example, and there's many others as well that go through the process. So in reference to the tiers that we have, there's a 1-star, 2-star, and 3-star, which reflects kind of your activity across the carbon action plan. It is something that we're also actively developing. So we're, there's a lot going on in the sustainability space. And so to help productions be a part of the net zero journey, and also look to include other aspects like biodiversity and waste, sort of the circular economy, we're evolving the certification at the moment as well to embrace those areas and make it easy for productions, very busy productions, to engage in at the same time.
Great, thank you. And Paloma, there's always been this myth that being sustainable or green is expensive and it's really difficult to achieve. What's your experience around it?
Well, my experience is that there's a lot of myths about sustainability, and we need to keep going and keep learning more and more. I love that this panel and this session today started with what's about sustainability. Like, let us learn about this whole context of what being sustainable means. But being from Mrs. Greenfield, a company who actually does this service and provides companies that are producing movies their way of applying certifications such as Albert or many others, as April said, that are around, we get this question all the time. Like, how much is this going to cost? Is this going to be very expensive? Is this going? And we always say the same. Of course, sustainability can bring savings, and it can help and make the numbers look better, but it needs to bring things that do things differently. Like, there's a need to actually change the way you do business to do real sustainability things and get actual results. So it's not only about how much is this going to cost, am I going to save, how much is this cost, right, that I want to see. But when you ask about the myth of it being difficult, I wouldn't say it's difficult, but it's challenging. It really needs us to focus in creating a new way of doing things. And that's, of course, a challenge that we have to face. So I wouldn't say it's expensive. I wouldn't say it's difficult, but I would say that it needs an investment, not only in terms of resources, but also in hours and people thinking about it. And it brings its challenges. It's not just an easy thing to do, but of course, we're trying to reverse something as big as climate change here, like not the easy little meeting will do.
Thanks. And continuing, Paloma, we've gone through COVID and that led to a lot of remote productions. So how has it been like going and working in remote productions from being on set? And also, how has technology helped? Not only having remote productions, but on the sustainability side of things?
Well, the biggest impact in terms of carbon footprint for productions is transportation, which is for many, many sectors and different sectors. So, of course, anything that has to do with remote and teams that can work remotely is going to have a real impact in the footprint reduction. But technology plays a big spot in sustainability, not only in the media arena, but in every other sector. We're going to need so many technology advance and new ways of also giving us this technology that we really are going to need it. And not only in terms of remote producing, but also in terms of energy efficiency, helping us with new energy sources. There has to be a lot of creativity on how we get energy sources for the media industry and producing film and TV. Of course, we need more efficient tools, procedures, ways to measure this, and ways to rate and do benchmarks and actually manage sustainability. So technology is going to be very much needed, not only in remote, which is, of course, an important thing that we can have from technology, but there are so many other aspects in which we need a lot of creativity from the technicians and those who work in technology.
Thank you. And Abdul, kind of picking up that tech point, we've spoken quite a bit about sustainability by design. What does that mean and how can we achieve it?
Yeah, so I think Paloma raised an interesting point there, because I mean, business change is hugely important, and really it does require organizations within all aspects of organizations to think and behave differently. And this is where I think sustainability by design really can help. So now in other aspects of technology, you have security by design, or you have this by design. And what it's really kind of trying to embed is the thinking whereby when it comes to sustainability, it's at the forefront of when an organization makes a decision. So if it's a decision to do a particular project or a particular production, whether it's a particular service even, at all stages of designing that service, product, or whatever it may be, that you're actually thinking about sustainability at all times. So we hear about organizations having cross-functional teams when they're developing or creating a new product. So when it comes to sustainability, do you actually have a person who, from the sustainability team, if you've got a large organization, representing sustainability in those cross-functional teams? And do you have people who are thinking about, when it comes to, if it's a digital product, thinking about how the system has been architected to have the least environmental impact, whether it's spinning up one or two servers? Do you really need that second server? So it's being able to pose those questions early on as possible when it comes to sort of designing and planning your systems. But that concept also applies to organizational design as well. So it's not just specifically about specific products. It could be applied to how you design your business. Do you need that second office or a third office or whatever it may be? So it's applying that concept of thinking about sustainability at all stages, and that's hugely important, because it's something that we assess in the DPP Committee to Sustainability Program, but it varies from organization to organization, and it could mean different things to different depending on the type of organization you are. But the fundamental thing is that actually, do you have that concept of thinking about sustainability at all stages? And I believe, and I'm sure others do, that it's extremely important to have that thinking.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything in April on that?
Sorry, didn't realize I was unmuted. I was just clearing my throat.
That's okay. So, because actually there are synergies between the idea of what you were saying. Do we need another server? Do we need another office with production? Because we've been talking quite a lot about energy, for example, and especially when you take generators on set, in most cases they over goal it's much higher, because they will never need that much energy, but yet they take it just in case. And so that's something that we've been discussing quite a lot about as well in productions. But April, you've got the carbon calculator, or you've told us a bit about the initiatives in Albert. What's the roadmap now for Albert?
So we've got a big strategic review happening. We are a purpose-led organization, so there's kind of three key areas that we're driving towards for the industry, and that's educating the industry around sustainability, enabling and celebrating as well. So I kind of touched on those a little bit before. So the strategic review is kind of, how do we create the most impact with the resources that we have and that we're really, really good at kind of going forward. And there are some key themes that are emerging from that, including kind of culture and capabilities. So how we support through training. We've got huge amounts of training. We've been supporting Screen Skills to create modules that are highly targeted to everyone across the profession. But then there's an additional module that's been added on now that is department specific, that is laser focused about what you can do in your particular role. And that should have some really meaningful impact. I mentioned a little bit about the education side, so how we provide curriculum and core competence guidance to the industry as well, for those that are working in sustainability roles and supporting the profession, but also those coming out of university, and what they need to know to be future proof their careers, so that the world that that we're going to have in 5 to 10 years and more is going to look very different from what it looks like today. So how do they embed editorial and content alongside sustainability methods in terms of the running of the production itself? We've got a whole range of different things. I mean, we've got some amazing tools already, but part of that strategic review is about kind of increasing the impact of some of these things. So for example, we talked a bit about our carbon calculator. We've got a review of that. We're revamping our toolkit. So I mentioned before how important it is for it to be very accessible. We don't want sustainability to be something that a few people are participating in and doing really, really well. We want everybody to be participating in it, but highlighting, getting them on that pathway to improvement over time. So the toolkit is an essential part of that, alongside, the training and development. We've also got plans for the supply chain as well, which is a really important part of the impact that we can have. So you might be aware we've got a suppliers list, but we can go further and deeper with that to providing guidance and education and signposting to our suppliers so that they can provide the solutions that the industry needs, productions in this instance. So, we want suppliers that are going to know about the technologies that will be needed for, green productions of the future. And we need to increase the availability of those solutions for the industry. We've also got loads planned on comms and events to, get people involved, get them engaged, and sort of increase the awareness, but also the depth of action that comes through engaging with Albert.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? I don't see any in chat, but feel free to put them in chat. Or if you want to ask them live, you can turn your camera on and I'll see you raise your hand. So happy to take any questions from the floor. But whilst we're waiting, if there are any. So this is an open question to all of you on the panel. So there's many certifications, assessments, standards appearing, and it can seem quite overwhelming to people and organizations. Where do you see this going? And that's an open question to anybody that would like to answer it.
I think Paloma and I discussed this, and I think Paloma's got strong views, and we share the views of this more broadly. The volume of assessments, it's only going to go in one direction, and that is up. So there will be more assessments coming out and more expected of companies. And as it becomes more regulated and it becomes, for certain organizations, it becomes something that they have to do because of regulatory requirements, the need to be more diligent around reporting, around measuring your impacts is just only going to become more stringent and stricter. But you need to start from somewhere. And I think this is where certainly when it comes to the BAFTA, if you're in production or if you're looking to do a business assessment, something like the DPP Committed to Sustainability Program will help. But it will help you get on the ladder and to make the initial changes that you need to make and get ready for those assessments.
And also we talked about the fact that in other sectors, there's a lot of different certifications as well being in place right now. So we will never find this one ring that governs them all, there's going to be a lot of different certifications that will do very good for their own goals and our own schemes. We already have some excellent ones, like Albert is. I use it and I can say that it really helps you and guides you. And there are some more that people can use and really start this journey. But focusing on finding the one is not going to be the answer. Focusing on finding one first step to do and then moving into the one that's better for you, better for your organization or for your actual purpose, you will find it. That will be something that will happen, and it's happening in every sector.
Right.
I'd love to add to that, if I may, if I have just a moment. Just to echo what Abdul was saying about there's a lot of legislative pressure coming down on the marketplace to report and do it in a credible way, but there's also a lot of consumer concern. Everybody that's your employees as well would be concerned. So everyone wants to feel like they're playing a part. And I think that's a really important aspect, not just to comply with a minimum requirement, but that transparency. So there are lots of initiatives, lots of commitments that you can make, but it's important to choose something that you can really stick to and be held to account to. And that accountability, I think, is really quite key with any certification, that you've made a commitment. Brilliant, but how are you measuring your impact over time, and how are you demonstrating improvement and really challenging yourself? As Paloma said, it's not just an easy thing, a few meetings, a couple of people in a sustainability team sorting out the bins. It's deeper, more challenging, but also really quite exciting as well.
Absolutely, and really rewarding. We've got a couple of questions up. So first one from Lisa asking, she's keen to understand the volume of companies taking on the DPP assessment and Albert as well. So Abdul, do you want to answer?
So,
your
so we've got around about 70 different suppliers that have taken part in the DPP Committed to Sustainability Programme. So what that means in practice is we've got suppliers of, at both ends of the scale, so the companies that have scored high as well as companies that have scored low, and it varies from some major established sort of vendors in the industry through to small startup companies. And so as a result, the industry average, so the average score that we've got is it floats around about a 3, because sometimes we have suppliers that have really advanced sustainability programs, and then at other times we have sort of new companies that have just begun their journey, and so it brings down the average. So it tends to float around about 3.
And that's out of 5, I assume.
Yeah, 5 being the high score, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And April?
Yeah, for Albert, we've got very high volume. Part of it is particularly lots of TV shows, because UK broadcasters have mandated certification. So we're dealing with between 2,500 to 3,000 productions going through the process, at least calculating the carbon footprint and engaging with the plan, the carbon action plan, irrespective of gaining the actual certification. We've also, with the studio standards, worth mentioning, that's news within it's just finished its 12-month first cycle. We had 12 studios participating in that, and we're going to see that hopefully increase over time. But that's another kind of meaningful addition to our certifications that we offer.
Thank you. And then we've got another one from Moritz asking, what are your thoughts about the amount of carbon calculators, even in the same branch, and the missing opportunity to really compare results due to the different emission factors? I guess that's
might be one for me.
Or April. And April.
We'd like to know specifically maybe which ones, but we are looking at, with the Albert calculator, we are aligning to the Greenhouse Gas Protocol product standard. So we're following, established global guidance. In terms of emission factors, we have our methodology very transparent on our website. You can go and look at it and see where we derive our carbon factors from. A lot of them in the UK are from DEFRA, internationally from the International Energy Agency, US EPA, and so on and so on and so on. Comparing different calculators, that is a challenge, and it's something that, Albert, we're not precious about world domination. We want to share if there's other calculators that want to talk with us about, so that globally we can compare apples to apples. We are having some of these conversations with some global calculators to try and align so that we can influence policy potentially globally, so that we have good data that's representative of the impact of the industry as a whole.
Thank you. And Paloma, you're a user of different calculators, so you can.
And I would like to add to that the reality of the differences in the calculators is there, and it's there everywhere as well. Like, let me remind you again that in every sector, this is what's going on, and we're dealing with this in the sustainability arena. What we're doing is we're measuring using the Spanish official emission factors for every production, plus different calculators such as Albert, because in terms of comparability, it's very important to use the same methodology. And comparability is a very, very tricky question for film and TV. But of course, using the same will help us compare. And for many things, we need to go to the specific. And of course, we can always do it. There's a lot of different ways of doing it. And we can use the more mainstream methodologies to help us compare in terms of productions, and then go deep in organizational and corporative strategies that go deeper and look into these different factors emissions, which is indeed an issue in the carbon footprint calculator all over the world.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I see Lisa's come up, so we are very close to finishing off.
It's fascinating to hear the number of companies already going through, some of these accreditations, and maybe we can use some of those to showcase and benchmark others that haven't started their journey yet.
Thank you. And thank you to the whole panel.
Yeah, thank you to the panel. Thank you for moderating. Good to see you all.